I took a screenshot of the seasonal tones. It's kind of like, I'm sure that the harmony tool, I was going to say that's way better than like a color wheel, because I was like, there's way more going on there. And I know you said, you don't want to say you can't really pick it out just by looking at me because the process is so in depth, but I took 2 guesses and they were both wrong. A major wrong.
So there's 12 different seasonal tone harmonies that, if you look outside on a beautiful spring day here in Atlanta, you're going to see daffodils and tulips and all the greens that are coming into the landscape now. Those things are all part of a seasonal harmony that we think of as, say, April in Atlanta. And all those colors are in perfect harmony with each other, but they're really different than if I breeze through here in October, we would be seeing rusts and bronzes and all of those colors. Well, all of us human beings fall into one of those seasonal tone harmonies, is what I call them. And there's 12 different seasonal tone harmonies, and each one corresponds to one of our 12 months of the year.
Yes.
And I do think that certain parts of the country are more applicable to it. You might think of winter in Rochester as closer than a winter in Atlanta. But to determine who falls into one of those seasonal tone harmonies, what I do is I identify 3 things about them. And one of the other questions that I get all the time, every single time I walk out the door, is somebody says, well, what are my colors? And if I could tell somebody by looking at them, I would just be sitting there drinking my tea and saying, you're this, pay me. But what it really is it's much more fine-tuned than that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I can tell about you, Whitney, when I look at you, is one of the things I try to figure out about people is, are they dark in their coloring or are they light in their coloring? And you thought you might be a spring, but honestly, there's nothing light about you. Spring is a light season.
Only my smile.
Yes, exactly. You have a...
Please do not misconstrue this.
Yes.
I'm like, I've put a disclaimer so we don't cut this clip and use it.
You have darker coloring. Your eyebrows are darker, your hair is darker, your eyes are darker. And so the chances are like so close that you're going to be one of the darker seasons, which is an autumn or a winter. Now, Vanessa, who's a warm spring, who is, a partner here or, works here at Liger, she is not as easy for me to tell whether she's dark or light. But I could probably look at her and say, well, is she warm or cool? Some people, it's easier for me to see that one aspect of her. And when I met Vanessa, I could kind of identify that she leaned a little more warm than she did cool. But there's 6 warm seasons and there's 6 cool seasons. So for me to say with definition that she was this one is not the norm. And then some people I can tell are very bright and they have a lot of contrast in their coloring. And I can tell that you have some brightness in your coloring also. Okay. So of the 3 things I try to figure out, whether someone's dark or light, whether they're warm or cool, whether they're bright or soft, I can usually identify one of the 3. And on you, I can kind of identify 2 of the 3. You definitely lean brighter and you definitely lean darker. But there's a whole bunch of seasons in there, and the whole range of colors as you go from one to the other is very different. And the way that you wear the colors, depending on which season you're in, is very different. There's a lot of different strategies for how those colors mix together. And so somebody who's a dark winter is going to wear their colors differently than someone who's a bright winter. And so the color consultation with me is very encompassing. And we bring in, again, we create a personal brand, even though I don't usually use that terminology, but we bring in their style, the occupation that they're in, their budget, and the colors, and how, with my background in color harmony, how those colors will reference together. For example, you'll see that I'm in a variation of different versions of blue. It's a very soft blended look, which works for somebody who's a light summer. Okay. It would not work for somebody who's a bright winter. I wouldn't have the same strategy for somebody who's a bright winter. Okay. And that's why it's very dimensional. It's not a one-dimensional answer. It's a 3-dimensional. It's 3 dimensions within 3 dimensions.
Okay.